besties, welcome back. It is a new month. It is already April, which is kind of wild to think about or even say, because I feel like I say that every single reading wrap up, but genuinely, where did this year go? Like, we're already at April, and then it's May, and it's June, and then we already hit the halfway mark of the year. Genuinely freaking out right now. But besides that, it is a new month, which means a reading wrap up, and I'm gonna talk about every single book that I read this month. I read 8 books this month, which is a lot for me, and I'm actually really excited about it because there were tons of amazing good reads in here. Let's get into it. Starting off with my favorite read of the month, and this is in no particular order because I just finished this 2 days ago. I read Check and Mate by Ali Hazelwood. This was so stinking good, and if you didn't know, I have a book club with my friend where we just kind of take turns every month picking books, and for March, I picked this book. It genuinely is one of my top 10 books now. I don't know if that's too early to say for the year, but it was so freaking good. It's hard to describe, but there is a certain genre of books that I categorize as the summer feeling. It's a summer feeling. It doesn't even have to take place in the summer because this one is summer all the way to winter, but it is a feeling of summer, and it's fluffy and it's romantic and it makes you kick your feet up and giggle, and it's just a classic tried and true rom-com. I've only read 2 other books that fit in this category, which is Better Than the Movies and The Summer of Broken Rules. And then now Check and Mate is in that category. So it's a very selective, rigorous genre to enter to, and this one made it in. There were so many moments that I laughed out loud, and I feel that to me is very rare for a book because a lot of things in my life or in general when I'm reading, it's always in my head. I react in my head. I'm oh my god, that was so funny. But this one I couldn't help but react physically. This is about Nolan and Mal. They're chess players and they're competitive, but they have a soft spot for each other. It's really good. You don't even have to know anything about chess, but the book itself, the character and the storytelling is super amazing, and I really, really recommend it. If you couldn't tell, this was a 5 stars. Next up, I read Yours Truly by Abby Jimenez. I just finished this maybe 4 hours ago, 3 hours ago, something like that. It is the last day of March, so this one barely made it on time, but it is still March, so she did made it on time. This has been on my TBR for the longest time, and I think every single TBR I've filmed this year, this book has been included, and for March, I finally got to it, and I am so glad I did. I was kind of kicking myself for not starting it earlier. This is about 2 doctors, and both characters have a backstory of their own. They have gone through pretty traumatic things. Dr. Brianna, she is freshly out of a divorce. She has a lot of internal conflict. She's very hard on herself, doesn't trust other people when it comes to love and relationships and commitment because of what she's been through. And then on top of that, her brother is suffering from depression and his mental health is declining, as well as his physical health because he needs a new kidney. And then Jacob, he is also another doctor. He suffers from anxiety and he also has a family situation going on, kind of, and they meet, and it's kind of a dislike to lovers situation. I wouldn't say it's enemies. Long story short, they start falling for each other, and Jacob actually donates his kidney to Brianna's brother, which is a lot for a new relationship, and there's a lot of things that they have to work through. I feel this one is very much contemporary. It's so real life that it hurts that this is a possibility that could happen to other people out in the world. Sometimes when I read, I'm kind of yeah, that was really good, but that is not real life. This one is so contemporary where I'm I actually think I might sob if this was a real relationship. Next up, I think this one is a very exciting book because I read it before everyone else. It's not out yet. It is Funny Story by Emily Henry, and there's been so much buzz about this book, so much lead up, so much build up. But this is, yes, the physical book. It is the finished copy, and you're probably thinking, why do you have it in your hands? It's not out yet. I just got an early copy of the finished copy. So it's not an ARC, it's the actual finished copy. I just got an early copy of it. I got an advanced copy of the audiobook, which was so stinking good. And now I have the physical copy, and I'm excited to annotate this because there's so many quotes in here that I think of daily that I'm oh, that is a really good lesson. I feel Emily Henry just writes very character-driven books. If you focused on the characters, you could read them forever because it doesn't matter what they're doing. You're already in love with who the story is about. This is about Daphne and Miles. The way Daphne is not a villain to everyone else is actually surprising to me because if I was in Daphne's shoes, I would be miserable and I would make everyone else miserable. I would drag them down with me because there's no way she just went on and like was the bigger person, and she was so happy. Like, couldn't be me. When I read this, I listened to it without knowing anything about it. Like, I just kind of went in. I was like, ooh, Emily Henry's new book, gonna click play. And it was so good. Like, I didn't understand the title, but like after you finish this book, you're like, that is a really funny story. Like, it's like how they met. It's like when someone asks like, oh, how did you guys meet to this couple? And they're like, it's a funny story. They met because he was dating a girl and she was engaged to a guy, and he goes on his bachelor trip and he has a girl best friend, and that girl best friend happens to be his girlfriend. And of course they didn't cheat on the other partner's term, but they confessed their love to each other, and then they came back, and she got kicked out of their apartment because his name was on the lease, and the new girlfriend was basically moving in, and she's like, are we not engaged right now? And so she is just like freaking out. She needs a place to stay. He now suddenly has an empty place because his girlfriend left him for someone else, and so they end up living together, kind of just like a roommate situation until things get better, but they end up falling for each other. I ended up giving it a 5 stars. I think the female main character's growth and character development was stunning. The way she grew a backbone and stood up for herself and advocated for herself, that was very inspiring to see, and it was really admirable. So I really enjoyed that. Next up, I read Collide, and I have started this book in like November of 2023, so it's been a long time coming for me to finish this book, but I finally finished it this month, and it was good. It was very cute. It's a hockey romance. It's college setting. It's very lighthearted. You don't think about it too hard, and it's just entertaining through and through. I was invested in like every single page. I feel like the plot, the story, the characters, every single part of it was really amazing. But it is one of those like, it's so lighthearted and fun, and there wasn't anything that was like, it left an impact on me, you know? But because it was so entertaining, I will still give it a 4 stars, because that's what reading is about. It's about having fun. Okay, I just changed the lighting. I realized the brightness was kind of high, so hopefully this is better, and hopefully I can edit the first half of this in post-production, but we will see. If you liked Icebreaker by Hannah Grace, this is genuinely kind of the same book. Like, there are so many similar, even like niche tropes, where she wears like his best friend or his teammate's jersey just to get like a jealousy scene. They are both athletes, they help each other. One is like on probation or like on pause with his hockey game, so there's a lot of crossover and overlapping. So if you read that and you're searching for a similar vibe and you want to read something similar to it, I recommend this. I have to like look back at my notes to see what I wrote, because when I read, I like forget it after I start the next book. So I'm sorry if I've been saying like a lot of the same things. I genuinely just don't have a memory. Like, not even short-term memory, I just don't remember things. I thought both of these characters were super mature. They communicated really well, and they talked things out, and they are just like very emotionally in tune with themselves and each other, and they take care of each other super well. I ended up giving this one a 4 stars. Still really good, super entertaining. Last physical book I have, Last Call at the Local, was another banger. 5 stars. This one was very emotional, and I think I highlighted a bunch in this book. There were so many lessons in this book, like life lessons, that I feel like a therapist would tell me. Like, if I was in therapy, like talking to my therapist, these were some of like the advice or solutions she would give me. She would strategize for me. This was like very like healing and warming to read. I feel like there was just so much I could learn from it. Remember, after finishing this, there were so many quotes in here that I kept on thinking about. Like, I went to bed and I'm like, oh, that's like Jack would say that. You know, when you take away a lot from a book, it's not even like a self-help book, it's like a contemporary romance. I just took away so much that it did leave an impact on me, and it did leave like a lasting feeling. So 5 stars. This is about Rain and Jack. He is a pub owner. She was a medical student, now a singer, artist, songwriter. She calls herself a street performer, but she loves to travel, and she travels to Ireland, and next thing you know, all of her instruments get stolen, and he is looking for an experienced coordinator for his pub, someone to get like more events going, run their social media. There's an instant like attraction and lust, but they never act on it, and I feel like because of that, they stayed like professional during their working relationship. It was kind of a build-up. It wasn't insta-lovey. It was a good tension, like continuous, and then once it happened, it was like, oh, Perfect timing. I remember when I was reading about their careers, I just love that there were like non-corporate careers because he's a pub owner and he's having a lot of fun with it. She was once a medical student going into songwriting and singing. I just felt that motivation. You know, when you watch like a really good motivational video and you're like, wow, I need to get my life together. I have the potential and I can do whatever I want. That's how I felt when I was reading about these characters, because I'm like, yeah, drop the corporate stuff, go chase your dreams, be a singer, be a songwriter. That's how it felt, and that was like very inspiring. Now let's move on to some of the other books I read this month that I don't have the physical copy of, which is 3 more books. Starting off, I finished A Bright Heart by Kate Chen Lee. This was February's book club with my friend, but I didn't finish it until like the very beginning of March. I think it was like March 1st, and I gave it a 2 stars. I really did have a lot of hopes for this because my friend was enjoying it a lot, and also I had a mutual on Book Talk that really loves this book. She gave it 5 stars. She thought it was so good, and I just did not feel the same as anyone around me who was reading this book. I didn't really understand that like enemies to lover plot, like they're rivals. It just wasn't paid off to me. I thought the ending was like kind of sweet, like his monologue to her where he was like, I don't care about the power, I just want you. That like true love aspect was very sweet, but I think the rest of the book, it didn't really connect with me. I couldn't even tell you what it's really about. I don't even know what they're fighting for, to be honest. So that's why it kind of ended up at 4 stars. Or 2 stars, not 4 stars. Moving on, I have With or Without You by Eric Smith. I listened to this one on audiobook. I would like listen to it on a whim. Like I had no intentions. It wasn't on my TBR. I never really heard of it. I only heard of this author, and so I saw that it was available on Libby, and I was like, sure, why not? I needed a book to listen to while I was working, and so I turned it on, and it ended up being really cute. It didn't leave like a lasting impact on me. I think I would lean more towards like 3.5 stars, but I am doing this thing where I'm just rounding up, so it's a 4 stars. It was good. I had fun listening to it when I did, but I don't really think about it since finishing it. There were also some moments where I was like, I personally don't relate to the characters. I don't see myself in them. I don't think I would react the same way in this situation, or I would not have made the same decisions. But that is why they're their own characters and they're not me. It's about 2 high schoolers, and it's like rival food trucks with their family. One is like Philly cheesesteaks and one is more like healthier artisan sandwiches. There's this big rival going on and everyone knows about it. People come to the food court just to see them kind of bicker back and forth like out loud throughout the windows. But deep down, they are in love with each other. And a reality TV show company comes in for the summer, wants to film them and like show behind the scenes of their lives. And that just gets a little bit messy. There was like a slight love triangle in there with like a producer. Like I feel like with a love triangle there might need to be like a jealousy scene or something like that, but I didn't get it with any of them. Last up, I read Dawn and Dusted, which last month I read Swift and Saddle by Lila Sage, and that was the 2nd book to the series. I think it's like the Blue Ranch or Rebel Ranch series. This is the 1st book, and so I was like, okay, I'm going out of order, but I still want to read it just to understand all the characters. I loved it. I mean, small town, cowboy romance. It's really hard to not be entertained, and this one was like a best friend's brother or brother's best friend. I think it was a brother's best friend situation. Super fun, super entertaining, nothing memorable, but I definitely remember having fun when I was listening to it. I think they're so gentle with each other. Like the main character is super gentle. He takes care of her super well, especially working through her problems of not being able to ride again, and so he really navigates her through that, and he like helps her and he coaches her. So I think that story is really sweet. Overall, I thought there was like a lot of chemistry because they had a secret relationship for a little bit, so like there was a lot of tension. I don't know how else to describe it because mainly I don't really remember it, but it was entertaining and I did have a lot of fun. I ended up giving it a 4 stars, and yeah, those were all the books that I read this month. I read a total of 8 books, 5 that I have physically, and I felt like there was a lot of bangers, like a lot of 4 and 5 stars. I think the only book that was a 2 stars was A Bright Heart, which is so sad to say, but everything else is a 4 stars, and I think I have 3 5 stars in there, which is pretty good. I feel like those are really high number, really high stats, so I count it as a really successful reading month. Thank you guys so much for watching. Comment down below what was your favorite book of March, and I will think about adding it to my April TBR because I haven't figured that out yet and I'm still working through it. Let me know what was your favorite book of this month and I will check it out, and thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next video. Bye!